Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey. Oh, hi. Sorry. Whoa. Sorry. Just as we started up, the buzzsaw started next door. Ah! Okay. My voice can take on a buzzsaw. Hello. Welcome to the program. It's March 30. Oh my gosh, it's my brother's birthday. Remind me to call Bill. I'll write it down because if I don't, I wrote down Bill at first and then I thought, no, you'll look at that and think you're supposed to pay a bill. So I had to put call in front. This shows a lack of self-confidence, I must say. Hey, I was just looking really quickly on my phone about whether or not did the cosmonauts and astronaut touch down okay. You know, they were like two Russians and an American, a strange trio these days, up in space, coming from the International Space Station, were supposed to come down in Russia this morning. And and they were to be greeted by, Russians and also folks from NASA who would spirit away the American and get him back to Houston, apparently within 24 hours. But I've been wondering about the future of the International Space Station because that is the only place that I'm aware of where the two countries are continuing to work together in obviously a collegial manner. So just wondering, and I just hadn't seen anything about it. By the way, the American who came back spent over a year, by a day or two, up there, and that surpasses what's his name, Kelly's record. I don't know if it's I don't know. Who cares? Most of you don't care, but I was paying some attention to it. Okay. So we passed an anti-lynching law. Way to go, USA! USA! Way to go! I was blown away that the vote was not unanimous. I actually made a point of looking up who voted against an anti-lynching law. Well, of course, Republicans. 3, in fact, I'll name their names: Andrew Clyde of Georgia, Chip Roy of Texas, and Thomas Massey of Kentucky. If you know any of them, you could give them a little bag of poop. Okay. I think I want to go back a little bit. Oh, and by another breaking news, let me just get this out of the way so I don't have to think about it anymore. Yes, it will be a bipartisan vote on Brown-Jackson for the Supreme Court, and we now know that at least one Republican will be voting for her, and that is a Republican I said would not. So I bet she did it just to prove me wrong, and that would be Susan Collins, yes, of Maine, has said she will vote for her. So there you go. And that's good. I mean, that she's in. If there was any doubt, she's in. So that's the good news. I want to share a email I got from one of you. That would be Kurt. This is in regard to the conversation yesterday about trans athletes after puberty being able to take on cis females in sport, whether that was in fact fair. I suggested it was not. And Kurt writes this. I mean, this is such a complicated topic. It really is. Requiring an open mind, an open heart, but mostly an open mind, I think. And it's a conundrum. Kurt writes, perhaps a wrinkle in the argument as you presented it yesterday is the internal sense of gender versus the external expression of biology statement. What somebody feels they are and what their body, their biology tells everybody else who's looking. The problem with that, Kurt writes, is that trans women are women, not some poseurs living in a male body and pretending to be female. I suppose if all the records in women's sports were being set by trans women, it could be said there's a fairness problem. But that isn't the case. And I suspect it is due to more than their low numbers. In other words, we're not exactly seeing a ton of trans women in athletics. Kirk goes on to say the body is changed by transitioning. And then he shows a post specifically about the woman who's causing all this talk. That's Leah Thomas, the swimmer. And somebody has actually looked at her numbers before transitioning and after. And yeah, since transitioning, she is not swimming as fast as she did before transitioning. Some of the numbers are, let's see, in the 200, prior to transition, her time was 1 minute, 39 seconds. The male record is 1 minute, 29 seconds. After she transitioned, she was 1 minute, 41 seconds. And the female record was just under what she was prior. Well, anyway, there's not a consistency of advantage. In this 1650, that's a long one. Is that 1650 meters? 1,006? No. What is that? I don't know. I never got the metric. I'm a good American. I wasn't changing to that European kind of measurements. Prior to her transition, she swam that in 14 minutes and 54 seconds. After her transition, she added more than a minute. She lost 65 seconds. I don't know. Okay, so that he just wanted to point that out, and he adds, there's a reason that with all the trans women competing in sports for years, she is one of the only top-ranking ones, which is why we're all paying attention to her, because she's always been one of the top ranking. She's just a hell of a swimmer, whether she appears against men or against women, whatever. But she's not as good as a woman as she was as a man. Just saying. Kurt added that. And given that, I kept seeing the same obituary yesterday. And it was somebody I didn't know, and this is often the case, which is one of the reasons I love obituaries, because they're just wonderful history lessons, quick little histories of people that you, didn't even know, and they're always remarkable in some way, or noteworthy or notorious. But this one, Joan Joyce, who died at the age of 81. My God, the accolades on this woman as the greatest female athlete of all time. And I'm thinking, well, if she was, how come I never heard of her? Isn't that something? I mean, that's nothing on her. It says something about media because I tend to pay attention. I never heard of her. This woman was an extraordinary softball pitcher, and so extraordinary that on an August night in 1961, she went up against Ted Williams. Ted Williams, you know Ted Williams, yes. The Hall of Famer, the better than almost anybody who ever played hitter. And let's just say this. There's a story in the obit that some guy said that he had gone fishing once off the Florida Keys with Ted Williams. And while they're sitting in the boat fishing, he said to Ted, "So who's the toughest pitcher you ever faced?" And he said that Williams said, "You won't believe this, but it was a teenage girl." Actually, she wasn't teenage at the time. I think she was 21, but splitting hairs. And it was for a charitable event. She was well known to be this extraordinary pitcher. And he, kindly, and apparently he went up against her a number of times for charity. But this time, the one night in 61 was just apparently unbelievable because she threw pitches at him for 10 to 15 minutes. Just kept throwing them. And she threw curveballs, sliders, fastballs, or her trademark drop ball. And Ed Williams couldn't hit a thing. He finally just threw his bat down and walked away. He got a few foul tips, just to be fair. She also went up against Hank Aaron when she was 37 years old, and Aaron was 44, and that was in another charitable exhibition, and she struck him out. Aaron said of her, she was something else. I mean, that softball comes at you and rises up around your head by the time you swing at it. But what's so amazing about her is that any sport she attempted, she immediately mastered. Let me see. She was a standout volleyball player. She took multiple All-American honors in basketball, playing for Connecticut. She set an AAU tournament record, national record, scoring 67 points in one game. At the age of 35, she decided, I think I'll try golf. And within 2 years, she had qualified for the LPGA. And she was still playing constantly softball, which was her love. And at the age of 42, Joan Joyce set an LPGA record for the fewest putts in a single round. 17. How do you do that? 17. I mean, that means she didn't even putt one hole. I mean, she would have done a chip shot or something, or it just rolled in without a putt. I don't know. 17. That is a number matched by only one man in professional golf. A guy whose name I don't know, Bob Brew. She was inducted into 19 halls of fame. God almighty. Of course, she never made any money. Almost all of this was amateur stuff. And she had to, while doing all of this is again, like, Ginger Rogers. She did everything Fred Astaire did, but backwards and in high heels. Joan Joyce had to take jobs all the time to pay the bills. She was a teacher. She was a referee. She served part-time as a community college athletic director. She ran a travel agency for a while, but she never squawked about it. She said, why would I be bitter? I don't care about the money. I enjoy the game, and that's the most important thing. I'd play this game even if it meant being broke the rest of my life. Joan Joyce. And then there's one quote in here which made me think that to tie this to the trans athlete thing that the Republicans are, because they have nothing else, no other way to win, but to foment these culture wars. Someone said this: Joan was the greatest female athlete in history. Actually, they thought again, she's one of the greatest athletes of all time, male or female. Certainly seems like it. Wow. There's a picture of her standing with Ted Williams, and they're both smiling, but he's smiling a little bit more and giving him a look like, oh, dear. So anyway, I'm glad I learned about her. Okay. I'll do one more semi-frivolous topic. Not that I've done frivolous topics, have I? But then I want to get into something that I read that just really blew me away and is a lot more serious. I'm going to just drop back to, again, the slap around the world, because I keep reading stuff. I read a great piece by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who notes in his piece that he knows Will Smith. And in fact, he'd been on Fresh Prince with him. And there's a picture of Kareem and the two of them a lot younger than they are now, smiling together. And he said he found him, charming, right, and all kinds of things. But boy, Jabbar takes him down. Just takes him down. And Kurt, whose email I read earlier about trans athletes and how the very act of transitioning takes, even if they transition after puberty, makes them drop in performance. Okay. Kurt touched on one of the things that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did, and I'm going to read Kurt's words rather than Jabbar's, because he's one of us. He ain't no celebrity. He's just a regular. And he wonders off the bat why feminists are not responding with more vigor in denunciation of Will Smith. And it's interesting because today's New York Times has a well-known feminist, black feminist, Roxane Gay, lauding him for standing up or a black woman, which so many people fail to do. What she doesn't mention, I mean, I don't understand that there's many ways to stand up and stand by your woman. And signing on to this absolute gratuitous physical attack as an okay way to stand up for your woman is absurd and distinctly anti-feminist. I'll let Kurt speak. I think it's necessary to counter the argument so many are giving to support his violence, which is we have to support and defend black women. True, Kurt says, but it's sad how expression of that conviction, is sparked by a slap. Okay. Jada, I want to get to the meat here, okay? Jada is not Will's property to defend. She's a strong, smart, independent woman entitled to determine her own response. She was the wronged party. Will Smith wasn't defending his wife. He was defending his own ego. Will's hyper-masculinity was on full display, replete not only with violence, but its characteristic dismissal of a woman's power and right to express herself. It seems we've forgotten a basic tenet of feminism, that male chauvinism likes to masquerade as noble conduct. And man, was that ever on display when he gave that cringifying acceptance speech later. How he was protecting all the women. He's a protector of women. What Kurt is saying, and what any feminist would say is, thank you very much, but we don't need your protection. You can deflate your chest and stop with the biceps and the testosterone stuff and back off. We are perfectly capable of defending ourselves. Okay. He goes on to say, had Will Smith not committed assault, we actually might have heard from Jada and had a conversation about the appropriateness of Chris Rock's humor. But now, the importance of Rock's remarks pale in comparison to the issue we absolutely must address, the violent expression of male dominance. Correct. Thank you for that, Kurt. That was two really good things you sent me today. Let me add a few things before I leave this topic. I hope forever, but probably not. Let me get to Kareem and some of what he said that would I also want to say Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, besides having been a hell of a basketball player, is a really good writer and clearly bright as blazes. So here's what he says. When Will Smith stormed onto the Oscar stage to strike Chris Rock for making a joke about his wife, he did a lot more damage than just to Rock's face. With a single petulant blow, he advocated violence, diminished women, insulted the entertainment industry, and perpetuated stereotypes about the Black community. Okay, that like pretty much, yes, sums it up. And the rest of his piece is explaining what he means by all of that. But, and he admits it. He says that's a lot to unpack. But let me just, and he goes after those women who have come out, in support of what he did, because they think that he's showing his love for her. And his respect for her, and how he will not let her be disrespected. And Kareem says actually the opposite. His slap was a slap to women. Because by hitting Rock, he announced that his wife was incapable, apparently, of defending herself against words. And Kareem says, from everything I've seen of her over the years, she's a very capable, tough, smart woman who can single-handedly take on a lame joke at an award show. This kind of patronizing, paternal attitude infantilizes women and reduces them to helpless damsels needing a big, strong man to defend their honor, lest they swoon from the vapors. If he was really doing it for his wife and not his own need to prove himself, he might have thought about the negative attention this brought on them, much harsher than the benign joke. This women need men to defend them is the same justification currently being proclaimed by conservatives passing laws to restrict abortion and the LGBTQ community. And then he goes on about how he was just repulsed by his acceptance speech. And then he talks about the damage to the Black community. One of the main talking points from those supporting the systemic racism in America is characterizing Blacks as more prone to violence and less able to control their emotions. Smith just gave comfort to the enemy by providing them with the perfect optics they were dreaming of. In fact, Fox News host Janine Pirro, whatever her name is, wasted no time going full metal jacket racist by declaring the Oscars are not the hood. What would she have said if Brad Pitt slapped Ricky Gervais? This isn't Rodeo Drive. Many will be reinvigorated to continue their campaign to marginalize African Americans and others through voter suppression campaigns. And as for the damage to show business, Smith's violence is an implied threat to all comedians who now have to worry that an edgy or insulting joke might be met with violence. They already have been saying for years that the wokeness of the culture has pretty much destroyed their ability to help us laugh. So, anyway, and Jabbar notes that since he wrote it, that Smith has apologized to. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and as far as I know, he didn't apologize to him personally, man to man, did he? He just put out the apology. I've got a caller. I'm sorry, I just saw that. Okay. Hi.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike.
Oh, hi, Mike.
How are you?
I'm okay.
So I was really oddly upset about this because I guess maybe because I like Chris Rock, but Monday morning I was oddly upset. And most of the people I talked to or texted with that day was taking Will Smith's side. And I was like, how is that possible? And I would say to my friends, he just assaulted someone in front on national TV. And I kept saying that. Most all women, by the way, who were taking his side. And then I figured out why it makes me so mad. Is because I'm a performer too, right? And Chris Rock was paid to be there. He has an employer. And that employer has a responsibility to make sure you don't get attacked. And if you do, there are some ramifications for that. Can you imagine being in a board meeting and slapping someone across the face and nothing happening to that person? Mm-hmm. In a million years, if I slap someone at work, a customer, an entertainer, someone who walked in, whatever, I would get escorted out. Period. End of story. You do not attack someone in their job. And Chris Rock was at work. And that the Academy is just saying, this is a fight. This was like a fight on the street where two people knew each other. And one of them slapped it. No. This dude was at work.
Well, I think what women need to do is rethink what Kareem and Kurt are saying.
Exactly.
What is the meaning of feminism? It's that women are powerful, and we do not need men interceding on our behalf.
Right. I agree.
It's not,
if she had gotten...
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If she had gotten up and slapped him, it would be a whole different story, right?
Exactly.
It would be a whole different story because someone said in an interview that Chris Rock punched down when he criticized her hair. No, punching down is punching someone who doesn't have any agency. Jada Pinkett Smith has all the agency any human being and the planet could have.
Yeah, absolutely. Jabbar also at one point said that the setting was what? This setting was a bunch of multimillionaires handing out awards to each other. These are all extraordinarily privileged people, right?
So privileged that they can't even take a joke.
Yeah.
They don't have to take a joke.
I guess nobody can.
The word that he used perfectly was petulant.
Yeah.
And Will Smith is a petulant child. And I'm sorry, my dad taught me how to be a man. He would never in a million years say smack someone who said something you don't like. Ever. As opposed to the men who teach their sons that's what, a lot of men, that's what they do. They teach their sons. But why do they teach them? That's homophobia. Yeah. They're trying to teach them to be a man, but that is not what a man is. A man does not put his hands on another human being. And Chris Rock, whatever you want to say about his tacky joke, he did the right thing. He would have had every right to punch him in the face and be rolling on that floor with him. But he didn't. He pivoted, walked off stage, and now is saying nothing. So if I was Will Smith, I would be worried. Number one, Chris Rock is a genius. His sense of humor is so on point. He could, if he would, humiliate Will Smith forever with his sense of humor. And he can also sue. And if I were Chris Rock, I would sue the Academy. Period.
I don't think he will.
Probably won't.
I think he'll.
But I would.
And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what the Academy does. And no one has mentioned that crowd of millionaires. Apparently, what they gave Will Smith a standing ovation when he won his award.
Right. Yeah. How's that?
Okay. Yeah.
Nobody that. Nobody
I'm sure somebody
out?
did. I'm sure somebody did. But no.
And then that idiot. This is how dumb Will Smith is. He should have stood up and said, "I'm sorry to the Academy for my behavior before. Thank you for this award," and sat down. Not give his original speech that he had written about love and all that other bullshit.
Love and
you
peace.
can't even read the audience.
I know, it was horrific. It was horrific. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm so adamant, but this makes me oddly upset. I don't know why.
No, well, I hear you, and I think there are a lot of people who are very upset by this, and you are upset by the reaction of people to the event. It's surprising you. Yeah.
Okay.
All righty, you. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Do I have another caller there in the wings? Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. I think I understand people being really upset at all these people defending him 24 hours later. But I have to say, a lot of that, but like people who are upset at what happened and want to like bring down the house, are just a bunch of stupid Monday morning quarterbacks. I have to say, I've been married to my wife for coming up on 36 years, that if she was suffering something and somebody was poking fun at her, and I don't care if you're a millionaire or you're a guy like me, it would stoke my fire a little bit. And so I'm not justifying what Will Smith did, but what I'm saying is, it's like, I might have done something stupid too. Okay.
Okay, but listen. But Roger, listen to this. Do you recall how Smith first reacted to the joke? Barbara, just to remind me, sent me the picture. When Chris Rock first said that about his wife's hair or lack thereof, Will Smith laughed. He laughed.
I think in the moment, you're not.
Yeah, well, in the moment, yeah, but what are you arguing for? That it's okay? It's okay for men to lose their shit, excuse me, to protect, to show their love. This is a kind of learned masculine behavior that is just bull. Would your wife say the same thing if we reverse it?
Saying, I think everybody's right, except for the people who are going to be defending him or coming down on him 24, 48 hours later.
Listen, violence is not the answer. The people who think what he did was right, that words could result in that at such an event, in such a place. I mean, it's just nuts. You can't condone that. Nuts. What behavior did he model? What did he or even excuse it? No, I'm not excusing nothing. I mean, the point is, I can see getting upset like that. I really can. Well,
it's wrong. It's wrong. And it's sort of like I use this thing where it's like people who spank their children. If you knew your child, so like your kid does something wrong, and sometimes you just whack them. And if you knew 24 hours in advance or an hour in advance that kid was going to misbehave, you would not spank the child. And I think it's a reaction. It's a wrong reaction, but but I think
we got to stop. You can't keep giving men a pass for this kind of behavior. This is why we get more and more and more of it. God, our culture is just so violent. Thank God he didn't have a gun, okay? God almighty. Yeah, right. But that's how people get killed in this country. Everybody's got a gun. And in the moment, they lose control. And so people die. That's what happens in this country. People die. We have got to stop understanding this.
I think we need to take a breath. And then who knows what's going on behind the scenes. Will Smith, maybe, for all we know, is very embarrassed, and he should be. I would be. And I'll
tell you what he is now. My guess is he's worried now that, in fact, he has destroyed his career. That the lead thing on his obituary will be this moment. Not any good things he did, not his Oscar, nothing. he has defined this. He brought more attention to himself than he will ever get again for a violent act.
Let me ask this. Should this define him for the rest of his life? If I did that, should that define me for the rest of my life?
I'm not saying should it. It will.
It will.
It will.
And I understand that. What I'm saying is like,
No, of course not. No, of course it shouldn't. We should all take into account every aspect of his existence, but that's not what human beings do. Okay?
But I'm saying is everybody on every side is doing exactly that. You know what I mean? People who are defending his action, and I am not defending him. I'm trying to understand what he did, and people don't want to do that. They just want to they want to just crucify him or they want to praise him, and both responses are wrong. And for somebody like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which he is 100% correct, he really is. But to write that article and just say and just tear apart somebody who made a mistake, is that right too? I mean,
all right. Okay, what are you trying to do? Destroy our entire culture? That's what we all do. People act and then people react. And we do it on social media. Roger, that's what we're all doing now. Right. I hear you, though. I hear you, and I thank you for giving
compassion for compassion for everybody.
All right. Okay, compassion for everybody. Thank you. Okay, bye. Henry writes, one thing that I noticed was that after Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, he turned around, and as he walked off the stage, he walked with an obvious swagger. That is correct. And had a look on his face like he was very pleased with himself. This swagger and expression was what you would expect from a third-grade bully. Jim Carrey, by the way, also had some very critical comments for not only Will Smith, but for the audience. Carrey said he was sickened by the standing ovation. Yeah. All right. Gigi has a book recommendation for us. Book called Biological Exuberance. I love it. Animal homosexuality and natural diversity. And well, God knows, that the animal kingdom is full of non-binary sexuality. There's no doubt about it. Anyway, she says it's a fascinating, in-depth look at the diversity of the sexuality spectrum in the animal kingdom, of which we are a part, I might add. I recall years ago, Dr. Scott Shalloway talking about this subject on his radio show and getting some pushback from folks who simply are not aware of such diversity. And they saw it as a political statement. Are you saying homosexuality is okay? Oh, that's funny. One can attach politics to it, but the fact that there is indeed a spectrum of sexuality is undeniable. Anyway, it's a fascinating book. Thank you for that, Gigi. Okay, now, where am I going to go? I've got this thing that I wanted to talk about. I just really quickly want to get this out of the way. Did you hear that CBS News, which I must say I don't watch. Oh, now I'm not getting it. Oh, go away. Yes, go away. Sorry, I'm talking to my computer. CBS News has announced that it has hired a new contributor to its news. The fact is that they have hired a man who may well have been complicit in the attempt to overthrow our government. CBS News announced that they have hired Donald Trump's former chief of staff, not Meadows, the one before him, Mick Mulvaney. Wow. Now, Mulvaney has said that I'm very familiar with Donald's manner and style and know a little about how he thinks. He wrote that in an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal. And in that piece, he told us this. This shows how much he knows what Trump thinks. If he loses, Trump will concede gracefully. Yeah. Okay, so great, CBS. Thank you. So you've looked at Mulvaney and seen how wise he is and who he serves and how well he knows Donald Trump, and now you are giving him this stage to muddle the minds further of your viewers. Wow. Wow. He also was on hand when coronavirus made its way, and he got really pissed off at reporters who were criticizing the lack of action. Trump was saying, it's nothing, it's the flu, it'll go away. And he said, well, we know how to handle this. On and on and on. So I just want to say, if you watch CBS News, maybe you shouldn't. This is our mainstream media. This is the mainstream media. God bless them. Even if Fox is not around, they will stand up and make sure that it's business as usual. Oh, God. There was a wonderful little bit that I saw. Hang on. I love this. It's about if you work for somebody who has an MBA. They've actually done a study that if you work for somebody who has an MBA, the odds are you're making less than you should. Wages at companies that hire managers with MBAs fall within 5 years of their appointments. This article goes on to say it appears that this is coming from what people who get an MBA learn in business school. They learn how to squeeze those workers. They learn how to up that bottom line. And then there's this. Not only do the wages go down, but the company's profits don't do as well. So these guys with their MBAs who get hired because they got an MBA show no greater ability to increase sales or profits than do people brought in without that credential. Here's the last little bit of that. Our evidence suggests that business managers are not more productive. Firms appointing business MBAs are not on differential trends and do not enjoy higher sales, productivity, investment, or employment growth following those hires. But their workers take a hit. So there you have it. And since I mentioned Trump when I mentioned Mulvaney, I also, in case this escaped you, on Russian state television yesterday, the only media that still exists in Russia since everything vaguely independent there, every media outlet has been closed down, and I'm sure its employees gone running for their lives. On Russian state TV last night, the host of one of their shows, a guy named Evgeny Popov, came out and said that it's time. This was in response to Biden saying that, Putin has to go. It's time for the Russian people to call on Americans to change the regime in the U.S. and to again help our partner Trump become president. That is chilling. This is Russian state TV, the mouthpiece of the Kremlin, literally owning up to the fact that they helped Trump get elected last time. Because he says, again, we need to again help our partner, Trump, become president. Whoa! Whoa! Unbelievable. Or not. All right. So this thing, I love that PBS show, Finding Your Roots. And it's always fascinated me that when somebody is on who, whose family has been here for a while, not like my family, which came in the 20th century, but has been here for a while, and generally who lived below the Mason-Dixon line, how they find out that they, in fact, have descendants who owned human beings and kept them in bondage. And you also, of course, see when there are black celebrities on, you see them have to come to terms with slavery in a more personal way as they discover the actual records that show their ancestors as property listed alongside tables and chairs in an estate. But there was a piece today in the New York Times that really, I thought, wow, is this a great thing? Turns out, because never before has it been easier for descendants of 19th century Americans to find their histories, to find their families, and to flesh out their history. And I also discovered, and this is wonderful to know, that the genealogy service Ancestry has made some, I don't know what that means, has made some of its records related to slavery free to anyone who wants them, free to users. And Ancestry has also published video guides that help people search for the kinds of documents that will give them information. But the thing that's so cool that I came across is that a number of organizations have been created that are about helping people, yes, find their histories, but then taking it a step further. There's a group called Coming to the Table, which has been around since 2006. And it brings together descendants, talk about their history. So it would bring together whites and blacks whose ancestors not only knew each other, but in fact, one may have enslaved the other, or, of course, raped, and they're now family. So that group coming to the table, which started in 2006, now has more than 50 local chapters in the United States. I don't know if there's one here, but that would be a fascinating thing if I would be very interested in knowing. And the reason I would be interested is stated here by a woman named Rhea Bennett. She's 80 years old. And she has found out that her great-great-grandfather owned 15 people. Owned people. She created something called Speaking Truth, which aims to catalog the family histories of descendants. And then participants are asked how they plan to act on that history. She says, as I said, she's 80 years old. She says, I don't want to leave this world without making restitution. So she and her sister are probably, now they're trying to find the descendants of the people that their ancestors enslaved. And because that's doable now, I know that if I had slave owners in my history and I had time, as I do, I would very much like to go on that kind of, I don't know what to call it. I know there's a very good word for it or two. I would like to find the descendants of the people that my family was enriched by owning. And as we know, generation to generation, that wealth accumulates. And so for those of you who are descendants of slave owners, what you have inherited is in part a result of that grievous wrong, that extraordinary sin of your descendants depriving other human beings of their lives, their liberty, and making money on their backs. And that money dribbles down, comes down, and then creates more money and creates more money. If I had the ability, and you do now, to try to find the descendants of your family's slaves and make restitution. That would be something so good. And it is a way to move forward. Our country has done very little we are incapable, it seems, to come to terms with this. But maybe on this individual level, we could. There's another group called Our Black Ancestry that is a nonprofit, and it serves to helps people share documents and trace histories and discuss reparations. So I just want to say that these are the groups speaking truth, coming to the table, Our Black Ancestry, and remember Ancestry.com, genealogy, the genealogist, may be of help to you. Because if you have profited by this horror, you can do what you can to set it right. Of course, there's no way to set it right for the slaves, for the people whose lives were taken, and labor taken, and hope, and children, and spouses, God Almighty. But to continue and enjoy and reap the benefits is sinful, I think. So I'm not saying I wish I had the ability to do this, but I don't have slave owners in my past. They were poor Jews living in a hellhole, and they ran for their lives in the early 20th century. But if I did, and my dotage with often a lot of time, I can't think of something that would give me more purpose in my life. I wanted to share that with you. Thank you very much. Enjoy what I guess is supposed to be a bizarre, warm day. And I'll back tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.